Hulk debated which direction to go when a shout echoed inside the metal building. Someone on an overhead catwalk noticed him and gave the alarm. Within seconds, men began swarming into the hangar, emerging from every tunnel to converge on him. With every exit blocked, that left only one other possibility. Hoisting himself over the rolled lip, Hulk jumped onto the big gun and began shimmying down inside the pit. "When are you going to give us the go-ahead, Remy? Now's the time to strike." Remy bowed her head and tried to hide her conflicting emotions from Deputy Braun. Her joy at waking up in the smelting room to find her 3 deputies still alive was tempered with the devastation she felt from Hulk's death. She grasped her braid and tugged on it. She needed something to center herself. She couldn't think straight because the ache in her chest was almost too painful to bear. To make things worse, it was hard to breathe. The smelter filled the hangar with smoke and insufferable heat as its immense ovens melted the dozamite at over 1,000 degrees. Men, stripped down until they were nearly naked, used long rods to maneuver the gigantic pots which contained the molten ore. Although they were on the other side of the building, the temperature was stifling, nearly unbearable. "We are waiting for you to make the first move." Deputy Truess spoke softly to keep them from drawing the guards' attention. The woman hurried away and resumed loading the ore cart with her bare hands. Lifting her face, Remy gave a quick look around the vast cavern. A guard spotted her sitting instead of working and started toward her, snapping a small whip against his leg in preparation. She hurried over to grab a chunk of dozamite from the trundle and carried it over to dump it in the ore cart. Seeing she was back on the job, the guard stopped, but he didn't stop glaring at her. "Heads up! Next shipment coming in." Remy barely managed to step away from the loading dock before another trundle came barreling into the cavern. It came to a whooshing halt as its air brakes employed. It still hit the parked trundle so hard chunks of ore went flying. Remy ducked to avoid getting struck, but one man standing nearby wasn't so lucky. She stared in dismay as the man lay quiet and unmoving. No one dared to approach him to offer help or to check and see if he was alive. A hot, biting sting of pain struck across her back and shoulder. It was immediately followed by a second slash of the whip. "Quit loitering, bitch. Get back to work." The guard raised the whip to strike again if she failed to obey, but Remy scurried over to the transport to unload it. Once he was satisfied she wasn't going to give him any more problems, he resumed his stance at the far wall. Remy kept her head down and tried to blend in with the others as they methodically moved the rock from the platform to the cart. When it reached a certain weight limit, the cart automatically pulled away, getting in line with the other loaded carts to head for the smelter. As they waited for another empty cart, Deputy Braun came up behind her. "We've told these people who we are," he whispered. "We promised to get them out of here. They know who you are, and they're waiting for us to make the first move, Remy. Do they know what I am?" She continued to glance askance at the figure standing watch a dozen meters away. Her back and shoulder burned, but even her physical discomfort couldn't match her growing anger. These men, Yarnell's men, were keeping these people as slaves, treating them as less than human. Worse, they had killed. Her breath caught in her throat. Tears stung her eyes, and she clenched her fists as she tried to muffle the whimper growing in her chest. "I will avenge you, Roos. I swear to all the gods in heavens." "Marshal?" Braun murmured again. She turned to him to reply when a siren blasted through the hangar, nearly deafening them. She clapped her hands over her ears and stepped back to see the guards running for the tunnels. 2 men headed for the corridor leading to the hangar, where they were suddenly tossed to the side. A figure emerged from the tunnel and paused to glance around the room to get his bearings. Shock nearly robbed her of her voice, but somehow she managed to scream his name as she waved her arms above her head to catch his attention. "Hulk! Hulk!" He froze as he caught sight of her. The next instant, a guard fired his blaster directly at Hulk, and she watched in horror as he literally exploded.